And welcome to Girl Talk once again. And Connie, glad you're here with me today.
It's always nice to be here.
And glad it's Friday.
Absolutely.
And on my left, I have David Strickland. Hey, David.
You probably heard David Strickland before, because Sandra talks about her rose bushes all the time.
I do.
And that's what we're going to talk about today, is rose bushes.
We're glad to have you here, David.
We are, David.
Glad to be here as well.
Much.
David is with Witherspoon Rose Culture, and they're out of Durham, North Carolina. But just because they're out of Durham, that doesn't mean you can't have one in Rocky Mount, and it does not mean you have to drive to Durham to get it. Am I right?
That is correct. We service gardens and install gardens pretty much all over the state of North Carolina. And of course we have shops in different areas. The closest one to here is in Durham, but we also have one in Charlotte. But you know, also on the World Wide Web, we ship all over the country as far as rose bushes, products to care for your garden.
So now, David, Witherspoon, I know Witherspoon Rose Culture is like a service now, but when you say roses, you deal in all kinds of roses now. So
That's
you don't
correct.
have just one Witherspoon rose. You've got all kinds of
Well,
roses.
that's their name.
Yeah, that's your name.
Exactly, but there is a Witherspoon rose.
Oh, really?
It's named for the founder of our company.
Oh, really?
There is.
Okay.
We've introduced a few varieties into the market, but we are a reseller of Weeks roses and Jackson Perkins, Star. Some of these people know Knockout roses. We sell Knockout roses, which is a big seller for Star roses. And in doing that, we also, like I said, the business does do the care, but it really started, you know, as far as that, and then providing the roses to people, and then of course, in doing that, expanded to provide them all over the country.
Your founder probably found out that there were a lot of people that didn't know how to care for roses.
That's exactly.
After they bought them.
And I'm one of them.
Yeah, you put them in the ground and you watch them die.
That's exactly what he found out, and even himself, he really didn't. When he first bought the business, it actually started as a tree and shrub company,
Wow.
and it concentrated in trees and shrubs and did roses in the Durham area, Forest Hills area. It was and progressing through that, he basically taught himself. He was a graduate of NC State and knew a lot about plants, but really didn't have a strong knowledge about roses.
Yeah.
And we jokingly say this guide here that we give out, and if you like a copy, you can call our 1-800 number and get a copy of this. We jokingly say it's 60 years of knowledge of growing roses, and it started when he started 60 years ago. We're celebrating that 60th anniversary this year.
Wow, that's a long time.
And it's everything from planting, spraying, fertilizing, pruning, everything. I mean, and it's not the only way to care for a rose bush, but it's a way that we've, over 60 years, have learned and have proven that it does work.
And roses are special creatures. I mean, I noticed that you had one little saying here. It says it's the outstanding care of one of God's finest creations, and they are a fine creation, but they do require a lot of special care, don't they?
Well, they do. We live by the philosophy of you get out what you put into it. They're not going to be a perennial or an annual you just kind of put some water to it. They're going to require more care. But the great thing is that you put more care, you get more reward out of it.
Right.
You know, you walk in with a bouquet of roses to church or to your mom, to a party. You know, you're going to become a different level of a gardener.
Gardener,
yes.
And that's what we've been providing for customers for many years, is that ability to do that. And for some, it's just knowledge. For some, it's helping them do it a little more. We help provide them some of those services that they feel a little overwhelmed with. Sometimes we joke and say we do the heavy lifting for them.
Right.
And every customer's different, and we curtail our packages to match that, because every customer.
And the first thing to do is to get in touch with you.
That's
and
exactly
you say
right.
you have a website.
We have a website, have an 800 number. You can call us up. We have consultations. We can come out to your home and look at your garden, give you advice on what you're doing, what you should be doing, kind of talk you through it. We also offer design services. You can come out and install a garden. If you don't have one or you want to redo one, I mean that's basically what I do pretty much on a daily basis. Is meeting with people, helping them get gardens set up, educating them on what they should be doing with their garden, putting a garden in for them, get them set up on service with our service side of our business if they would like that.
It's full service, full service. And so you can actually, if they don't have roses, we can start a garden, but if they have some, you can look at what they've got and say, hey, this is what's wrong and this is what we need to do.
That's usually how the process works. They've started down the road with a hobby, or haven't, or would like to, and if they have, we kind of go through that process of why they weren't successful or why they weren't as successful as they wanted to be, and then work through that process of figuring out what they need to be doing differently, what they might need from us, because they may have kids. They may have a busy schedule at work. They may also like to go to the beach in the summertime and want some help with, you know, some spraying or fertilizing. You know, so everybody's packages and everybody's situation sets up usually a little differently, but we match it and then we'll go from there.
Well, there's a lot of frustration when you love roses or you love flowers and you go to this hard work to plant them and then they die or they don't do good. There's so much frustration because people, I'm the kind of person, I want somebody to come to my yard and say, oh, I love that, which is what they did with one of the rose bushes I have. I got it from David. Now, what kind is it?
That's a Rio Samba.
Rio Samba, but what kind of?
It's a hybrid tea.
It's a hybrid tea. And I got it because it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, and I said, I want that. I want that one. I told David, I want that one. He was in Raleigh at the Southern Women's Show, I believe it was, and I said, I have got to have that bush. And I am proud to say I did listen to what he said, and it is the most, I cannot tell you how pretty that rose bush has been. If I describe it to you, you still cannot envision or imagine. It had 57 blooms at one time. One time. And it's big. But, now let me ask you this, David. During the winter, I was so sad because I didn't do anything to it. I didn't do nothing. I said, was I supposed to wrap this thing up? You know, it got really cold. I told my husband, I said, it's died. It died. It was a stick. It was nothing but a little stick. I said, I'm going to have to go get some more, but that's okay. I'm going to get some more from Witherspoon. Well, spring started approaching, probably February, March. I go out there, and this little greenery starts coming
out.
I said, oh, my God. And boom, it was like magic. It started coming and coming and coming, and it was this big. Well, it started out like this. It's the biggest rose bush I think I've ever seen, and I didn't really do that much to it. I did fertilize it last year, though, like you said. And let's start with that. How do you do that?
Fertilizing. Well, I mean, there's usually two modes of fertilizing. In our methods, you're going to basically be something that you would put in the bed, an organic matter that would help feed the rose in that method or that mode, which would be a breakdown of that organic matter around that root system. Helps that feeder root growth.
Are we talking about something like black cow?
We're talking about we're talking about cow manure usually. That's the most popular thing used in this area. It would be cow manure. Some people hear people talking about mushroom compost a little bit, turkey litter or turkey manure. You'll see that because we have a big poultry industry in this state.
I was going to say, we're fixing to have a lot of chicken litter in Nash County, so I'll just borrow some of that.
The main thing is making sure it's aged. So that's kind of the first mode of, let's just say, fertilizing. So we have a bed set up that is heavy in organic matter that the rose can live off of or feed on. That's usually not enough to make the blooms like you were talking about happen. That's going to also have to be fed by usually what we use is more of a mechanical, like an agricultural based or mechanical type fertilizer. Something as even as common as a 10-10-10 fertilizers. And there again, I do a lot of talks, and I always joke and say if we're talking fertilizer, I can go for about 4 hours on fertilizer.
Oh my gosh!
And you know, I have questions come to me. There'll be the grandma's mix with the banana peels and coffee grinds. And those all work to some level, but they tend to not be quite as strong. And also, you don't tend to have enough of that stuff coming out of the house to feed a big rose garden. But using something like a 10-10-10, Osmocote 19-6-12. There's some great products that are being used. The 10-10-10 side is more of a fast release. You would start in March, putting down about a cup per plant about every 6 weeks, and do that through September. That's the growing season kind of, and that's where you want to stop towards the end of that growing season so you don't feed and push them through to winter time. Some people will start out with that 10-10-10 in March and then come back about six weeks later with that Osmocote, that 19-6-12, which would then be a slow release to feed the rest of the season. A cup each time, you're done. Depends. This side, the 10-10, probably a little more work, depending on how much money you want to be involved. Some people want more work with their rose garden, some people don't. And of course, Witherspoon's even made it easier than that. We took the two and combined them.
Oh, really?
Into one bag, and you put it down in March, and you're done for the year. Some people don't, that's the simplest way to do it.
Wow, that is simple. And that's available now.
It's available only through us because, I mean, that's a specialty fertilizer where we're making it. You're not going to find anybody that's looking for that fertilizer. So you'd have to buy it through us, but you don't have to. I mean, you can. I just talked about, of course, If you want it easy, that'd be the best way. And we can deliver it to you.
Again,
you said that you saw the truck the other day.
Yes.
Most places in North Carolina, we're going to be able to bring it right to your door.
Yeah, I have seen the service trucks in Rocky Mount, so they will bring it right here to you. And you do need to get that fertilizer from them because they can tell you how to use it.
So again, on the website,
and make it beautiful.
And tell us the website address.
It's witherspoonrose.com.
That's easy.
Witherspoonrose.com.
Now, what is the season of a rose? Tell me that.
It's going to depend on temperature. You know, you were talking earlier about we were conversating in a commercial time about last year versus this year.
Yeah.
Roses, and it's always going to be that case. This year you fight this year you fight that, or your challenges are changing, and it tends to be the same way with the season. But usually it's about 1st of May through, depending on how your garden, where it's situated in your landscape, November, December. Most everybody in this area gets what we refer to as Thanksgiving roses. But the few lucky do get Christmas roses here. And that's what's great about the rose. We talked about the work you put into it, but the rewarding long blooming cycle. You're not going to find many plants that are going to bloom from May through December.
But you told me that it's important to start early because, like I said, I started spraying mine too late because I had already had the problem. So you say start maybe March when you're starting to fertilize and to spray and all that.
Definitely a homeowner that's doing it themselves. I mean, they're going to be spraying with like a pump-up spray or a backpack sprayer. That's not going to be the same level of coverage that like my truck shows up. It's spraying at 300 psi. I mean, you're sweating and you're pumping. You want to get good coverage, and some people, as it gets hotter and later in the year, the plant gets bigger, they tend not get that coverage. So the earlier you can start. We do say, if there's foliage on the plant, go ahead and start spraying. That's when you should. And usually that here would be March. You talked about February. They tend to lose all their foliage in January. You prune them in February.
How much pruning? Now, I know that's a really difficult thing to tell our viewers, but pruning.
Pruning for us, and it talks about this guide here. Now, I think the guide is the best thing. If you can call that 800 and get that guide, or just call me. And ask for me, I can talk with you about it. But pruning is that's probably the most technical thing with roses, where a lot of people get overwhelmed with them. We do offer free pruning classes. Of course, the closest that class would come to you would be Durham. It'd be a great day trip to come.
Oh, yeah.
And our classes, you can follow us on Facebook and keep up with those classes, or you can just call the office, or you actually can get on a mailing list and have a letter sent to you. It kind of gives you a newsletter every month. That's what you should be doing in your garden. But those classes are season pertinent. So say in December when it's time to cut back the garden, basically you're cutting it back a third. That's the simple part of pruning. You just want to clean up the garden. And then we go through winter. This is when it gets technical. Starting to spring back up. You said the little green, maybe about an 1/8 inch long, 1/8 inch in length. That's when you want to prune. Pruning, that's what we call spring pruning, and that would look like actually cutting them back even further, probably another third usually, and depending on what type of plant. I'm not going to go because again, we can go for hours. But you want to cut back again. You're cutting out. You're selecting the best canes to leave. You're cutting out the dead, disease. We jokingly say the 4 Ds: the dead, the disease, the damaged, and I jokingly say the deranged.
That's
right. You want to get those bad canes out. You get it down where you have the best canes come back up going spring, and then you want to follow it up with March with that fertilizer and feed that new growth coming back up on those good canes.
Now, I've messed up this year. I have not done my fertilizing. So I'm going to lose all my buds. How do you get them back once they all are gone? How do you get them to start back with the blooms? Because I'm not seeing that many blooms now because I didn't fertilize. It was my fault.
Well, the key right now, what rose gardeners need to be really watching, what they're really into right now is on top of their spray program. Make sure we're keeping the black spot off, the bugs off the best we can. You're never going to eliminate
keep it all off.
No, it's not going to happen, but you're trying to control as best you can. Then you want to be also fertilizing. Now, if we've done the Witherspoon method, we're done. If you haven't, you want to come in and probably go with it. At this late of the year, you want to stay on that 10-10-10 program. So just go ahead and fertilize with a cup of 10-10-10 per plant.
Every 6 weeks.
And then mark out 6 more weeks and do it again. Mark out 6. And sometime around mid-September, though, we want to stop doing that. If you have a warm location, the garden's pretty protected, up against the southern side of the house or something, you can go later into September with that fertilizer application. But definitely into September, you need no more fertilizer.
Now, a rose bush takes full sun. Do they not? Pretty full sun?
They need at least 6 hours.
Okay.
6 hours. And after that, we just refer to that as gravy, you know. And you tend to have maybe the 50 or 60 blooms the more sun you get.
Well, it must be my son.
Okay.
Yeah.
and then of course also though, knowing you get more than 6, you're going to use more water. So
Exactly.
when I'm along the beach, the first conversation we usually have is they want roses, and I say, well, what is our water budget? Especially if we're in the city, you know, because we're going to be buying some water. When it's 100 and we're in sand along the beach and more sun, the drier that bed's
So they
gonna be.
take right much water.
They do. Right now, with the temperature we've been facing, you're looking at 5, and I've even seen 5 gallons of water. 5 gallons of water per plant not be enough. I've seen some situations where it's getting approaching 10 gallons of water.
Yeah.
You know, inch of rain usually what we say, but even when it stays in the 90s and doesn't rain, it's.
I think I'm underwatering too.
Yeah,
a lot of people do that.
Oh,
A lot
yeah.
of people do that.
That might be why my leaves are falling off too, because I'm underwatering.
Well, we're going to come back and talk about some more services of Witherspoon rose culture right after this. Got to go pay the bills. We'll be right back.
Stay with us.
Not just donuts, not just a bakery, not just a gift shop, but all 3 in one. Ann's Donuts, serving the best donuts, pastries, cinnamon rolls, cheese straws, ladyfingers, muffins, danishes, and fresh coffee ready each morning at 7 a.m. with a quick, convenient drive-thru. Birthdays, special occasions, and elegant wedding cakes. Having a business meeting? Let us do something sweet for you. Also visit our gift shop for handbags, jewelry, watches, balloons, gifts and novelties galore. Gift and wedding baskets custom designed. 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and 7 a.m. to 12 noon Saturday. Ann's Donuts, 2714 Sunset Avenue, next to the Sonic. Call 252-937-6006. There's always a party going on at Ann's Donuts.
The Rocky Mount Farmers Market is now open every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. and now new summer hours, Wednesdays from 8 to 11 a.m. Come join us for locally grown fruits and vegetables, flowers, homemade breads, cakes, jams, jellies, and crafts. The Rocky Mount Farmers Market, 1006 Peachtree Street.
Welcome back. We're here with David Strickland from Witherspoon Rose Culture out of Durham, but he's everywhere. He's everywhere, not just Durham, and he's got a website, witherspoonrose.com. Be sure you look at that because there's lots of information. You can order some of your booklets, your guides.
As much information as you'd like.
Okay, and you can make contact, and you can have those beautiful roses, right?
Without a doubt.
David, some of the elderly people look at knockout roses, which are so popular now, and they're called that for a reason, I think, because they'll just knock you out when you look at them. They're just knockouts.
It's about color. It's usually
It's about color.
color impact. Taking the idea of another type of rose, maybe like a floribunda, which is just a lot of blooms and a lot of color. Taking that idea and taking the shrubs, which is usually more easy care, and you kind of combining the two, getting a constant color impact with less work, less care for the most part. That's what they've been kind of.
And aren't they a little hardier? They require, I mean, they're a little more resistant to bugs and
they
diseases.
They are, but and that's the bad thing is that they've come with that
Stigma.
and they probably have been a little bit undercared for in most
Right.
places. Because
Because
people
of
think
that.
they can just put them out like an azalea, and really, as you know, you don't put azaleas out leaving. You need to trim them, you need to cut them.
Okay, I'm going to buy this one because it's plant and go.
Exactly.
Don't ever have to do nothing.
And that's the biggest problem we're seeing now with them is that they've been, especially in I would say, of course, in my area, which is Durham, Raleigh to the coast, Raleigh's probably the place that's been planted so much with them. Seeing a lot of disease problems in a lot of those knockouts, and I think this is more of the viruses and the diseases mutating where they can attack that plant because there's more of them than the other plants.
Right.
So
They're there. They're available.
Exactly. So
And they have not been around that long because some of the older people tell me, well, I've not heard of these, you know, in my past, you know, growing roses.
I think it's probably around 10 years ago. Bill Radler is the hybridizer who introduced that plant. Star Roses is the main manufacturer or breeder of those plants. There's about 9 varieties if you count the home run series, which is kind of a cousin to a knockout. We sell their whiteout, sunny knockout. There's even double knockouts, which has more bloom, more petals in the bloom.
Right.
So you get a little bit denser bloom. The main thing people don't do with them, they don't prune them hard enough, they don't feed them well enough. And that's where you'll start seeing the older knockouts that are so big and this huge 8 feet around, 6 feet around. That's not really what it's intended for. It's not going to be a knockout because that's going to be a lot of green with a few blooms.
Right.
You really want to prune them pretty hard. You know, some people say 15 inches or so. I even prune mine a little harder than that. I have about probably 50 or so in my yard.
You do?
Yeah.
50?
About 50. The hybrid tea garden's only about 30, 35. And I use knockouts, what they're there for, the impact color. I have beds all around my landscape that are the impact color. I use them like you would a azalea, you know, 30 years ago.
Right.
I have all different colors, but I prune mine to about 8 inches.
Yeah.
I really knock them back.
I have a friend that does that, and they're gorgeous because it's like they're hardier. They're better
they bloom better on the newer wood. Exactly.
That's right.
So you want to cut all that old striated canes, those old looking canes out. That's what you don't want to leave on a knockout.
But sometimes around here I see just very limited colors, but you can get them in lots of different colors,
and of course that goes back to years ago. They started out with just the knockout, which was that reddish pink color. Then they went into more of the lighter pinks, but now you're seeing more of the, there's one called Rainbow that has a little orange look to it, yellow look to it. There's the Sunny, which is a yellow and a white. You're seeing more colors come out now.
Let's show our rose garden in the studio. David brought some roses today. Now they're not blooming yet. There's one little bloom, but look how healthy. And I will attest to the fact that these are healthy rose bushes because the one I got, I'm not a gardener, so it had to be pretty good for me. So they are very healthy plants that you get, rose bushes that you get from Witherspoon. I can tell you that firsthand. And now these rose bushes are going to cost a little bit more, these knockouts, than the average rose bush that you would just go get, you know,
I mean, all our knockouts, hybrid teas, floribundas, David Austin, we're actually a premier partner for this region as far as David Austin roses. A lot of people like David Austin, which is that Old English style, peony style blooms. Gets them to bloom all season long. A lot of people like those varieties like Graham Thomas and Abraham Darby, which do very well in this area. We carry those. They're all going to be somewhere in that $26 range when they're in a container grown like these. They're in the studio. Yeah, probably a little more than you're going to pay at some places, but there again, we are bringing, we provide the highest quality rose bush you can buy.
Well, they say you get what you pay for. Do you want beautiful roses or not? I mean, if you do, then, you know, $26 is very reasonable for something that's going to be very beautiful in your yard for years. I mean,
what's the minimum number? Say I wanted you to, I said, David, I wanted you to plant me some roses. What's the minimum number that you do?
I mean, really, I'll plant one plant if you want me to, two. But we try to get a 8 or 12 to start. Say you want to start with a rose garden. And just to get the full enjoyment out of the experience, you need more than just a couple plants. You need probably 8, because we want you to be able to cut and make arrangements, because that's really the real fun of it. Especially talking about, and we're talking about hybrid tea garden here, cut garden. Some of you really, knockout gardens, color impact gardens, you can just put out a few plants to do that. But if we want to put in a true rose garden, something we're going to cut and really enjoy off of, 8 or dozen is what a normal starting we like to do. A lot of people, dozen and a half is a really, if you want to fill your home with roses, that's where you need to be. If you want to cut and share a little more than that, maybe 2 dozen. Customer average is about 2 dozen. Really, and that's, I joke, said my garden at home was 30, 35 or so. We definitely, my wife can carry them into the work. I can, my dad has about 100. He's retired though. If you're gonna have that number, you need to be retired.
You got it.
Sure, you better believe it.
And be willing to work.
That's right.
And be willing to work. Well, do you have any types of commercial gardens around Rocky Mount area, in our area, that people can just look and see what you're talking about?
A great garden in this area is, it's a little bit, it's not quite in Rocky Mount, but it's not too far to the south. Wilson, North Carolina has a great rose garden.
Yeah, it's at the city. I'm going there this afternoon. I'm going to look at it.
We maintain that garden, have for years for the city.
Wonderful. I've seen that one, and everybody needs to see that. It's just
and it's called the Rose Garden.
Wilson Rose Garden, yes, and it's at the operations center there for the city of Wilson. A gentleman by the name of Rufus Swain and some other people in the community there started that garden years ago, and took care of themselves for a number of years. As you know, a garden as it expands becomes more challenging. They contacted Witherspoon, and it's probably been about 10 years ago now that they contacted us for our help, and we've come in and started like we do for City of Raleigh. We take care of the Raleigh Theater Garden. We have for years for like Duke Gardens and
Okay.
Planetarium at Chapel Hill. There's public type gardens. We've done a lot of that care for them. And Wilson is the closest one you could see that. It's a great garden. It's about 1,200 plants. So you can definitely walk through and immerse yourself in roses.
In roses.
Well, I'm excited about going there this afternoon. It's just luck that we have a meeting there today. So.
Well, it's a beautiful garden, and it's well maintained every year. It's gorgeous now. It's been there for a number of years, actually.
It has.
But it's a must see on while you're traveling around looking for something.
It's definitely one of the gems in North Carolina.
It is. It is. Not only to see, but to smell too.
Oh, yes.
Because a lot of the roses, have that beautiful.
Without a doubt. And that's what you'll see in our catalog. We carry a lot of roses that smell. You know, that's our big thing. And you walk that garden, you'll see a lot of the same varieties.
That's super, super.
One question before we go. We do have to wrap it up. But David, when we cut a rose, maybe we want to take one to work, to put on our desk, or take one to someone at work to put on their desk. How's the best way to care for that? Because they will go in a minute.
When you're cutting in your garden, you want to have a water source readily available. We sell a product called a rose caddy. It's just a little handle, has 3 little buckets on it. You can kind of cut the rose and put it directly into the water. Some people have bigger gardens, use 5-gallon buckets. And you just want to have a water source, a cool water source right there.
Immediately.
Put it right in. Usually bring them inside. Real serious rose gardeners have the spare refrigerator in the garage. Throw them in the refrigerator, let them sit, the cooler, let them sit overnight. Some let them go a little longer. They help strengthen the flower a little bit, cools that water down. And then, of course, make your arrangements and then cut them. We like to say at least let them stay in there overnight. That's some people just take them straight in. My wife does that a lot. She'll bring them straight in, make arrangements, put them around the house. They won't last as long. But there again, she goes right back out to her garden and cuts another crop.
Well, with that many rose bushes,
do you have things you add to the water? Now,
I mean,
you can get all these concoctions that people make up. But,
there are, and you can see that work to some levels of degree. I've never personally seen it work, so that, that there again.
You just makes you think they do.
Just put the rose in the refrigerator and then take it out.
The refrigerator
put
is
it
the
in
most
the water.
important thing.
Okay, very good. That's
very good tip.
Well, listen.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, thank you
for having me. I really enjoyed it.
And don't forget the website, witherspoonrose.com. That's
or you can call 800-643-0315.
Okay.
And you can have your rose bush like mine. Yeah. And your rose garden, they will come out and do it for you. Beautiful. Just pick you out a spot. If you're new at this, pick you out a spot, let them come and do your rose garden. Or if you already have one and you're frustrated, then let them come and help you with it.
Yeah, full service. Don't forget that.
Absolutely.
Thanks again,
Much
Dave.
as you need.
Absolutely.
Witherspoon Rose Garden.
Be with us again next time on Girl Talk. We'll be right here.
Thank you for watching.